Old school RuneScape keys are one of the best ways to make money since the beginning of this game, whether you get them yourself by hunting down monsters, training your skills, or buying them from others. There's always some profit to be made. In this video I will open up every key in the game and see which ones are actually worth doing and which ones not so much. We're starting off with my personal favorite, Brimstone Keys. Getting 100 of these bad boys was the longest grind of this video. In total, I got 900,000 Slayer experience collecting all of them, and the best way to go about this is doing bursting Slayer tasks like Dagonots, Abyssal Demons, Dust Devils, and Necreals. The sweet spot for the best drop rate on Brimstone Keys is around 100 combat level NPCs. This lovely graphic is a great way to demonstrate what I mean. For example, if you get a Counter task of level 70 monster, you have a roughly 0.45% chance to get a Brimstone Key for every monster you take down. But if you go a little bit higher and get level 100 monster task, that chance almost triples at 1.25% per KC. Additionally, if the monster has a Slayer level requirement, there is a 20% boost in drop rate. That makes monsters like Dust Devils brilliant for this sort of grind because firstly, they're level 110, secondly, they have a 65 Slayer requirement, and finally, it's easy to burst them down and you can extend the Slayer task up to 250. This fits every criteria for a fast Brimstone Key hunting. Overall, the entire grind took me a little bit over 20 hours in total, and another side benefit of getting all the keys was that I also managed to accumulate over 1000 Slayer points through different Counter tasks. When it finally came down to open all of them, I was specifically looking for two types of items. One of them was the Dragon Fruit Seed. You see, the average Brimstone Key is valued at 100,000 GP. However, if you get lucky, you can snipe 4 Dragon Fruit Seeds with one key, and that gives you 800,000 GP. On top of that, what made the loot slightly better was the fact that I had over 97 fishing level. If we take a look at another graphic over here, it showcases that the higher your fishing level is, the more valuable raw fish you get from the chest. So if my fishing level was 1, I would mostly get raw tunas as loot, but since it's level 97, I now get raw sharks, which means more money. Interesting little side note here, when you open up the chest you can see some items inside, like for example Saradomin Brews, even though you can't get that potion from here. This is because on release they added the option to get Saradomin Brews from Brimstone chest, but few days later Jagex removed this because it became the early game meta to get really good potions without actually draining up your herb lore. However, you can still see the little Easter egg inside the chest even 6 years later. I did get 2 collection log items called the Dusk Mystic Row pieces, and it was quite lucky because the individual pieces are 1 in 1,000 drop rate. At the end of everything, I made a little bit under 10 million GP, which like I said before comes to roughly 100,000 per single key. So was it worth to do Counter Slayer for that extra bit of money? Yeah, I think it was. It becomes more valuable once you do unlock those burstable tasks that pump out Brimstone Keys. It's a nice bit of extra money for any account, but if you only care about Slayer experience, I would still pick Neve and Duradel over this Slayer Master. I have a big announcement to make, and that is me partnering up with Creator Crafted. They are officially licensed by Jagex and offer a multitude of different items like desk mats, LED signs, plushes, statues, metal posters, air fresheners, and much more within the classic old school RuneScape style. Currently they have a lovely summer sale going on with certain products like the Leviathan desk mat and a brand new take on the air fresheners with all your favorite Slayer masters and trees. On top of that, they also done limited restock on all their most popular items. So if you waited a long time to get something for yourself or your loved ones, this is a great opportunity to purchase some quality RuneScape merchandise. Head over to the link in the description and use my code KriibusFC to get 10% off on your next pickup. Next up we have Enhanced Crystal Keys. I made a video about this grind before and I opened up 10,000 keys that ended up almost bankrupting me. The reason I say that is because making these keys is one of the most expensive ways to train your crafting and smithing. It cost 4 billion GP to go from level 80 to level 99. Keep in mind, Jagex did buff this method recently by adding more crystal shards to the drop table, and after I opened up my initial 10,000 keys, I ended up with almost 1,400 crystal acorns and almost 40,000 crystal shards. This comes to roughly 300 million GP after I find the time to turn all of this into money. If you make these keys yourself, the average loot is about 50,000 plus the crystal shards you get. However, it costs over 200,000 GP to make a single key. So every time you make one of these, you lose roughly 150,000 and you gain 500 experience in crafting and smithing. When it comes time to open this, you can use up to 950 keys per hour, and the method I used was just banking at the closest place, using the crystal teleport seed, and bringing about 12 to 14 keys per inventory. One of the reasons I did the chest is because once again it gives some collection log items, specifically the Dragonstone armor pieces. When I opened my initial 10,000 keys while training for 99 crafting, I got over 27 armor pieces, which does add up quite a bit at the end. If you are planning to go for this grind, a really good tip is to have a gem bag with you because you can put uncut dragonstones inside it, and it saves you some inventory space. But I will say right now, it is without a doubt the least profitable key in the game. I spent roughly 20 million GP to get 100 keys for this video, and after I opened all of them up, I ended up with 5.4 million GP back and some extra crystal shards. The acorns you get from here are some very nice farming experience as a side benefit. I got a total of 16 of them, and that gives another 200,000 farming experience. Plus, if you use super compost on the patch, you get like 30 crystal shards per one tree. It's definitely worth doing if you have some left over. Overall, I wouldn't recommend doing this method unless you just have abundance of crystal keys and crystal shards laying around. This is definitely a lost leader for this video. Let's move on to the next key, and this time it's Larran's keys. Now, I've seen many people open up thousands of these, and you can make a lot of profit if you can get the unique Dagon High pieces. First of all, Larran's keys are a really good drop to get if you do Wilderness Slayer. I already did the grind on my other video where I show you the benefits of this over normal training methods, so this time I wanted to buy the keys instead and see if I can still make some money. If you are doing Wilderness Slayer, the drop rate for Larran's keys scales off the monster levels. The sweet spot for the best drop rate is level 80 monster, and it has a 1% chance to drop in the wilderness. Also, if the monster you're hunting has a Slayer level requirement, the drop rate chance is increased by another 20%. On top of that, if the monster is in the Wilderness Slayer cave, you get another 15% increased drop rate. So for monsters like Necreals in Wilderness Slayer cave, they have an almost 2% chance to drop Larran's keys, and considering they're currently 132,000 each, that's a really good way to make extra profit. If you buy the keys from Grand Exchange, on average you should profit roughly 5,000 per a single key. And just like Brimstone Keys, your profit scales off your fishing level. So the higher level you are, the better raw fish you get from here. In fact, it shares a lot of the same loot table with Brimstone Chest, and like I said, you can get really lucky with something like Dragon Fruit Seeds, since one Larran key costs 130,000 and you can get up to 5 Dragon Fruit Seeds, which go for 1.2 million. I got incredibly unlucky this time around. I don't know how I lost so much money, but situations like this where I got pure essence 4 times in a row caused me to immediately lose over 500k GP, and very soon I realized I won't make any profit today. It didn't also help that I got no Dagon High pieces, so after everything was said and done, I spent 13.2 million GP on the keys, and I ended up getting back roughly 10.5 million GP. No Dragon Fruit Seeds, mostly pure essence, and no uniques. I'll leave a link down below where I did the Wilderness Slayer video and got the Larran's keys myself, because that was honestly way more profitable than opening up this chest. And after the unfortunate event with Larran's keys, I wanted to get some guaranteed profit, so I decided to open up 100 Grubby Keys. This chest is without a doubt the most profitable one in the game. At current rates, you get almost 10,000 GP profit per a single key. The only downside is that you can't take that many with you, and it's quite a distance from the bank to the chest. My route was using Crafting Cape to bank, Book of the Dead to get back to Hosidius, using Wilderness Sword to get the guaranteed cut through the webs, and then just running to the chest. Initially, I thought I can do this in a PvP world and just bring a looting bag, but it turns out you can only use looting bag in very specific regions of the map, and it just doesn't work in most places. I played this game since the beginning, and honestly, I didn't know this. So I went back to normal worlds and just started bringing roughly 7 to 9 keys per trip, depending on how much loot I left on the ground. I ended up leaving the egg potatoes because they were the least expensive item you can get here. The only requirement to open the chest is 57 thieving, and the way this works is quite unique. First of all, you are guaranteed to get 2 loot rolls from the food table, then you get 1 roll from the potion table, and then another one from the main loot table, so you get 4 rolls with 1 key. In an ideal situation, you want something like Sarah Brews superstores from the food table, prayer potions from the potion table, and then the dragon arrows and dart tips from the main table. But of course, just like with RuneScape in general, you will end up with the average of everything. The price of Grubby Key at the time of making this video is 40,000 each, and after I opened up 100 chests, I ended with 4.75 million GP in loot. Meaning, in about 25 minutes of doing this method, I profited roughly 750,000 GP, and that makes this moneymaker a nice 1.6 million GP hour with very little effort. I also got these egg sacs for Sarachni's pet. I can metamorphize the colors by using the egg sac on the pet and turn it into orange, blue or red. If you wanna get the Grubby Keys yourself instead of buying them like I did, the fastest way is using ice spells to burst down these temple spiders, and that gives you about 4 keys per hour. Overall, this chest never lets me down, and it's always nice to come back here and make some extra profit. Next up, let's jump to another very profitable moneymaker, the Sinister Keys. These mostly come from Magpie Implinks. They're basically a byproduct of rich players opening up these Implinks to get hard clue scrolls. These Sinister Keys are a guaranteed profit no matter what, because the loot you get from the chest is always the same. 2 Harrowlanders, 3 Runnars, 1 Erit, 1 Avanto, 1 Quorum and 1 Torstol, which gives you roughly 3.5k profit per single key. So what I do is run down to Yanil dungeon from my player-owned house, bring 25 keys with me, and every chest I open gives me roughly 3,500 profit. Since all the loot you get from here is noted, you never have to worry about inventory space. Only requirement to open this up is 49 agility, and you will occasionally take poison damage by unlocking the chest, so pre-putting a sip of anti-poison in the bank is highly recommended. After I open up 100 keys that I bought for 3.2 million GP, I get almost 3.6 mil back. And it took me only 15 minutes to unlock all of them, so just like the Grubby Key, you can expect to make around 1.6 million profit per hour. If you're an Iron Man, this is a great way to get guaranteed prayer potions because you always get 3 Runnars with every key you open. Next up, let's go for the crowd favorite, Crystal Keys. We already talked about the disaster of opening enhanced Crystal Keys, but this one is actually profitable. You can do it 2 ways. I bought all 100 keys myself, which is less profitable, but you can also just buy the loop and teeth half of the keys for 20,000, and you get on average 24,000 loot back from the chest. What you're looking for in this chest is runite items, specifically either 3 runite bars or runite plate legs and skirt. There's also the opposite, where you have a 1 in a 7.5 chance to get absolutely nothing besides the guaranteed uncut dragonstone, so I guess that really balances out the runite items. I spent 2.2 million GP to buy 100 crystal keys, and after I used all of them, I ended up getting back almost 2.4 million GP, which comes to roughly 500k profit an hour. But if you buy the tooth and loop half of keys instead of the full version, you can make up to 1.5 million GP hour with this chest. Before we move on, I gotta admit that I actually lied to you. I said I was gonna open up 100 keys of everything in this video, but that's not really the case. There are 2 keys that I missed out on. One is the Moon Key and the other is the Dark Key. Firstly, the Moon Key has to be one of the longest grinds in this game's history. Unlike most keys in the game, Moon Keys are untradeable and they open up a chest in the Twilight Temple dungeon that has a bunch of good loot. The problem is, it takes more than 7 hours to get a single key, and to do that you have to kill on average 500 brutal blue dragons to get 1 tooth half and cut down 1600 decloaks to get the loop half. This makes the grind to get 100 keys about 700 hours long, and as much as I appreciate you guys and the support you show me, I'm not quite ready to spend 700 hours to get a little bit of loot for this video. The average key is worth around 220,000 depending on how much the Sunfire Splinters cost, because that's the only guaranteed drop you get from this chest. There is one other drop on this table that I'm very curious about, and that's the Helmet of the Moon. It's a 1 in a 500 drop, and it has to be one of the rarest items in the game. 1 in a 500 item on drop rate would take the average player about 3,500 hours to obtain, so there is a very good chance that only a handful of people in the entire game have this item, because no sane person will grind thousands of hours for a cosmetic bucket helmet. Right? Other than that, the chest has some interesting drops like 150 onyx bolts for some good money, but you also have chance to get something disgusting like 28 cabbages or few other junk items. And the other key I lied about is the Dark Key. This falls into the same category where the grind itself is just too long for the loot you get. The way to obtain dark keys is by opening a chest in the Isle of Souls dungeon. On average, you should get about 1 key every 1.5 hours, so to get 100 of them it would take about 150 hours depending on your thieving level. The reason I gave up on this grind after a few hours is because there is a really annoying mechanic where you have a small chance to get kicked out of the dungeon, and I would honestly do anything else than this. I realized I don't want to do this when something like this happened, where I spent 45 seconds running to the chest, and then the first time I clicked on it I got kicked out again, and now I had to spend another 45 seconds running back. I got 1 key. I opened it up and I got a total of 7000 GP with a rune axe, which proved my point that I'm never doing this again. So overall, I will try to open almost every key in Old School RuneScape, but some things are just not meant to be. And with that being said, let's move on to more openings. Starting off with Muddy Keys. Straight off the bat, the only way to make profit is in Members World, despite the keys also being available in free-to-play. The reason for this is a change made in 2024 where Jagex added extra loot for the Members World. This made the key obsolete in free-to-play because you can't get these supplies there. The key is worth 6.5k each, and the loot you get from here is also 6.5k, so it's completely even. Unless you snipe a Larran's key from this muddy chest, which has a 1 in a 46 chance to happen. In that case, you get extra 130,000 profit. This used to be a really good free-to-play moneymaker back in the day because you always get a guaranteed loot of runes, mithril paws, and uncut rubies, and you can sell them for profit. Now you're pretty much praying to get a 7.5% chance to hit a rare loot table, and then you snipe Larran's keys because that's the only way to make profit. Overall, I'm actually quite disappointed that Jagex keeps stuffing every wilderness content with blighted supplies, and that kinda devalues the content itself. I remember back in the day I used this regularly to make money on my free-to-play account, but now those days are gone. Opening up 100 Muddy Keys should give you about 200k profit in Members World, and the hourly profit comes to about 350k GP hour, which honestly that's what it used to be in free-to-play back in the day, so I guess that hasn't changed after all this time. Next up, we're moving to Shades of Morton, where players can open up tons of different chests with tons of different keys. In fact, there are 25 chests with 25 keys in this dungeon. I'm not gonna open up 2500 keys for your entertainment this time around, but I did make a video about this entire minigame if you want a more deep dive into Shades of Morton, and I'll leave that in the description. The gist of this golden chest is that they're meant to be the best place to get elite clue scrolls in the entire game. You can get almost 3 elite clues per hour, and the loot itself is quite profitable. The method is very easy. Take out full inventory of golden keys, use your Mauritania legs to perk the rot. From there, run to the tombs, and if you have the golden key, you can unlock any door in this dungeon. The unique collection log items you can get is the full sellout armor set that gives you 5% chance to save bones and insult heads while bearing them. The average key is roughly valued at 13,000 each, and after I did all 100 of them, I got almost 1.3 million GP. Keep in mind, to get the golden keys themselves, you also get insane fire making a prayer experience, which adds up on top of the already good loot. There's also a money making method right next to the chest room, which is collecting Urium shades, as they are currently 9,000 each, and you can kill about 250 of them every hour. If you want a detailed guide on how to play this minigame, make sure to check out my Shades of Morton guide, where I go through every step of the way and explain this minigame in full. Okay, we have 4 keys left, and I firstly want to talk about an obscure one that not many people use these days. It's called the Ham Storeroom Chest Keys. After you complete Death to Torgeson quest, you can come down below into this Ham Storeroom and start pickpocketing the guards. You don't get thrown out anymore like you do in the quest, and instead you just take a little bit of damage if you get caught. If you pickpocket the guards, you start gaining different types of keys, and these open up chests in the same room. The Rogue's outfit gives me double the keys, and this is an excellent place for early game Ironman who don't want to go through all the hassle for making enchanted jewelry from scratch. On top of getting all these keys, you can expect to get roughly 9 easy clues per hour depending on your thieving level. Once I had 100 silver keys, I bank everything, I take them out with a picklock and go back to the same place. The keys I'm using in this video are located northwest of the room. There's also iron, bronze and steel keys, but they all give the exact same loot, so in reality it doesn't matter what kind of key you use. If you use them on the chest inside the room, you start getting tons of jewelry. Most notably items like emerald rings that can be turned into Ring of Duel Links, Sapphire necklaces into Games necklace, Ring of Recalls, Amulet of Powers, Amulet of Strengths, Dig Site necklaces, and so on. It's not a lot, but for early game accounts, this is a decent method to not only get clue scrolls, but also some extra money. After I opened my 100 silver keys, I got 10 sapphire rings, 27 sapphire necklaces, diamond amulets, emerald rings, and much more. If you do it for money, you can expect to get roughly 150,000 GP plus the easy clues. Now, let's move away from one obscure type of content and on to the next one. Ogre Coffin Keys. This was an interesting one. I bought 100 keys for 300,000 and I made so much money back. The entire profit of this lies in the bones loot table you can get from locked coffins. To unlock the coffins, you can run from the Castle Wars or I use the fairy ring that's nearby. There are 2 locked coffins outside you can use the keys on simultaneously, which does save you a lot of time. Jackpot item you're looking for here is the Ogre bones, which currently go for roughly 60,000 each. Since the Ogre Coffin key is 3,000 each, you can have a very nice profit margin. On top of that, once again, I got 2 easy clue scrolls opening up 100 keys, which is just another added benefit. The rest of the loot table is mostly junk items except for black nails. For some reason, black nails are almost 2,000 each and you can get 11 of them per 1 key, so they do add up a lot if you go for bulk opening. Also, side note, since I'm already talking about loot, there is an ultra rare chance to get a single dwarf weed, which is 1 in a 4,000 drop rate from locked coffin. This has to be one of the rarest and most useless drops on the Venn diagram. I don't know why this grimy dwarf weed is so rare. It makes no sense to have a single herb at 1 out of 4,000 drop. I did read this trivia from Twitter that said the developer meant to write a whole list of herbs on this loot table, but he got the logic wrong, so there is a bug currently where all the lower tier herbs are replaced with Lanthatime, and I thought that was kinda hilarious. In any case, I was incredibly lucky with my 100 keys because technically I was supposed to get 4 Ogre bones since they're 1 in a 25 drop rate, but I ended up getting 6 of them. This means in just 10 minutes of opening Ogre Coffin keys, I ended up getting 250,000 profit. You might be asking, well, can you even sell the expensive bones? And the answer is yes. For some reason people buy this because they give tons of prayer experience and the daily volume for this item is about 2,500 per day. Overall, it's quite a chill method of opening keys, it gives some easy clue scrolls and it's nice profit. I cannot complain. Let's jump from one extremely old piece of content to something that was just recently added, the house keys in Varlamore. Many players have started using this as their main thieving method. Just like with few other keys in the video, they are an excellent way to get easy clues. On top of that, they're extremely AFK training method that requires very minimal attention. It took me 25 minutes of pickpocketing to get 100 house keys, 100k GP, and I also got 7 easy clues during that time. Side note, using Rogue's outfit here is an absolute must. It doubles the amount of house keys you get and also the money you get. There is one more method to get the house keys, which is fishing in this pond nearby, but it isn't nearly as good as the thieving method, and honestly, it has to be one of the most random things in the game because the items I got from here can only be described as unusual. Once I had the 100 house keys, it was time to put them to use. There are a total of 3 houses you can use to break in and they randomly swap every 2 minutes. There is a rune-like plugin called House Thieving Varlamore that indicates which house is available, and the method itself is quite simple. You go inside the house, you click on a chest or a closet or a table, and it automatically starts pickpocketing valuables. Occasionally you get an indicator for extra valuables you can find around the house, and that gives you boost of experience. Once the 2 minutes is up, you can see the NPC returning to their house and you have to escape through the window. As soon as you're out, another house becomes available and you just go through them one by one until you used up all the keys. Sometimes you also get an item called bone statues. You can use a chisel on them to turn into bone shards. Overall, it took me a little bit over 5 hours to use up all 100 keys, and the experience here is quite good considering how chill it is. I got 560,000 thieving experience for 100 keys, and that comes to around 110,000 per hour. After everything was said and done, my inventory looked quite stacked with jewelry that I gathered, some bone shards for 22,000 prayer experience, and 12,500 valuables. The way you can profit off these valuables is by talking to Oriana right next to the Varlamore bank. She wants to know how many valuables you want to turn in, and I got over 700,000 GP for using up all 100 100 house keys. Honestly, I think the better part is just all the thieving experience from this. If you want to level up your thieving but don't want to put that much effort into training, this is a perfect place to start. Also, if you're into clue scrolls, you can get 15 easy clues per hour by pickpocketing the wealthy citizens. And we have one more key left, and I left the best for the last, Zombie Pirate Key. This is actually quite straightforward. The keys cost 19,000 GP and you get 19,000 GP back. Pretty simple to understand. The real money comes from the anchoring teleport scroll. At the time of making this video, the scroll is 900,000 each. If you get this, it immediately makes Zombie Pirate Keys one of the best money makers in the game. Firstly, it is a must to equip Amulet of Avarice. This makes all the items I get from the chest noted, meaning I can bring as many keys as I want without the need to bank. Like I said, it all comes down to whether you get the anchoring scroll. That's the moneymaker. Of course, as usual, I didn't get the scroll with the 100 keys I did, which basically means I went even as far as it comes to making money. But just out of curiosity, I wanted to see how long it would take me to get the scroll. I just wanted to see that beautiful plus 900,000 in the chat, and it took me in total 257 keys to finally see the collection log pop up. So in the end, I was basically on drop rate and went even with opening the keys, but got the extra 900k from the scroll. It's a very do or die moneymaker, but the dopamine rush you get once you see the teleport anchoring scroll in your inventory totally makes up for it. And to end the video off, please consider helping me out by liking and subscribing if you enjoy this type of content so I know to do more of this. I love you all very much. Bye.